All right, for today's video review, we're going to be taking a look at Transformers Combiner Wars Legends Class Bombshell. A pretty neat little figure here. Another one of the Legends Insecticons that were released around this time. What's kind of funny is because they were technically all three in different toy lines, they have different gimmicks, each of them. And what's kind of weird about Bombshell is the gimmick that was going around with the Legends class Combiner Wars figures was they all had some sort of tertiary weapon mode that the combiners could wield. And technically Bombshell doesn't actually have that gimmick. It wasn't recorded in the instructions or anything, but there clearly is evidence of some design to that effect being involved in this figure, because he's got these 5mm pegs off of his knees. He has guns on the back of what will be his robot mode hands for no particular reason. So you can kind of fan mode a weapon mode out of him if you want to. It's not amazing because I don't think that they went the extra mile of actually having it being integrated into the figure. But basically what you can do is if you take these sections here, which will be his arms, they untab from each other, and then you can rotate them around on these joints here, which will obviously be his shoulder joints. And it's close, but you can't quite tab them back together if you rotate around the forearms. You can get them to tab back together, but then they kind of get in the way of this block on his back, so they can't really go up. Yeah, well, I don't know. Actually, no. So it's you bring them up a little bit, and if you get them actually sitting parallel with this gun here, then they actually untab each other. So you can kind of just float them around these sections, and you can do what you want with the bug legs, rotate them up like that, and have that going on, and then use just one of these pegs. And unfortunately you can't really fold away the bug legs because they interfere with the peg that the combiner would have to hold. So you can, because these pieces they move together, but they are separate pieces, so you can fold in the front legs here and then just leave the back legs and have something like that. I'm not going to bother bringing a combiner, but here he is with side swipe. So it's it's an okay gun. It's not the most stable thing in the world because the arms aren't tabbed back together, and the peg is on a hinge there, but it's also really loose, especially on side swipe. But yeah, whatever. But yeah, again, not an official mode, but it is a little weird that he's got the pegs on his knees and he's got the, weird guns on his hands. If this wasn't meant to be some sort of weapon mode, you could do something else, just fold these out to the side that's a lot less stable like that, just because, then you're just contending with the ball joints at the shoulders. But, you can get it looking decent-ish. I mean, I personally, I think it looks better with them folded down, so it doesn't look like he's just got his arms out to the side. But you can do that. Like I said, not technically an intended feature, but clearly was part of the design process for this figure. So I don't really know what to make of it. I didn't, I don't really need it to have had a gun mode, because it's a little weird that he would have that gimmick and then the other Insecticons wouldn't. So it's an ignorable thing, but I don't think, even though it's not technically a mode, it still is to the figure's detriment overall, because well, we'll talk about it in robot mode, but I feel like the gun hands look especially weird on him. But otherwise, he makes a lovely little rhinoceros beetle here. I really, really like his alt mode. In terms of articulation, I mean, you just saw a lot of it, but each of the legs are on an independent hinge at the base, so you can rotate them separately. These ones are attached on a swivel, and it's at an angle, which is actually surprisingly helpful for readjusting the angle of the foot there to get them seated with all 6 legs on the ground there. But yeah, no, pretty good little bug mode there. In terms of comparisons, here he is again with side swipe, just so you can see what he looks like with a standard average deluxe. Here he is with Thrilling 30 Shrapnel, who we took a look at a few days ago, so you can see what the two of them look like together. It's not a perfect match because, again, these were from 2 different toy lines technically, released a year apart. So the purple's not quite the same. His is a little bit darker. He's got more of an orangey yellow, whereas he's got more of a regular yellow. So it's they don't match perfectly, but they still look good together, all things considered. And here he is with Legacy Bombshell. So you can see what the two of them look like together. And I actually do kind of prefer the alt mode on this guy. It's mostly just like, I love that he's got like the rounded sort of back here, whereas this guy just using the, the shrapnel legs just has like a big box. I wish they at least remolded those to, make it more rounded, but whatever. That says more about him than it does him. But, obviously different aesthetics here. This guy's going for more of like the, mechanical bug rather than like a bug themed spaceship, which I've talked about in previous reviews. But, that's what the two of them look like together. To get onto transformation, it's pretty simple. You just fold these knee pegs out just so you can have the clearance to fold the legs the rest of the way. You kind of untab the arms here and bring them out to the side just like that. Fold up the legs like that. Split the legs. At the base here, it's on like kind of a T-tab, so I usually try to like slide it out rather than like pull it straight out, like which you could technically do, but it's just a little bit nicer to the plastic to do it that way. Then rotate him around at the waist here, and then take his little horn section here and fold it up like that, and then fold this panel down. And there you have Bombshell in his robot mode. Now, there's a few things you can do with the legs. You can fold them to the back, but it kind of ends up messing with like the knee articulation, and you can fold, these legs even further so they sit like that. So you could, if you want, just like, do it like that so that only these legs are sitting, but then they kind of bump into each other in robot mode as well, or where like the legs are kind of, bumping into each other. So it's like, ultimately I just kind of end up leaving them off to the side, which visually I think looks the worst out of all of those options, but it hinders his sort of like articulation and posability the least. So whatever. He's got a decent little head sculpt there. Again, this panel sits kind of like, a ways above his head, like further than you'd sort of want it. You can kind of angle it down so it's a little bit better, but it's kind of the problem with the cartoon design of Bombshell being like adapted to the toy, is that this section to hide the head always has to be bigger than the head, so it always looks a little bit weird, but whatever. In terms of articulation, he's got no swivel at the head, which is kind of surprising and unnecessary, but that would have been cool, but whatever. He's got ball joints at the shoulders, and then because of that transformation also kind of has that backwards butterfly joint. You can also do what you want with these. Again, they're on swivels, so you can kind of rotate them to the back if you want, though, then they kind of bump into things a little bit more. I usually just don't bother and leave them hanging off because I feel like that doesn't look too bad, but, you've got that option. He's got a ball joint at the elbow, which gives him a, bicep swivel and about 90 degrees of bend at the elbow. Again, he's got the, like, guns on the, on his fists there, which I just think makes him look a little bit awkward when you're, like, looking at his fists from the front, but he's got this kind of like upper midriff joint that you can use as a waist joint for transformation there. Hips are on ball joints, which can go forward and back and out to the side. He's got a dedicated thigh swivel and then a hinge at the knee there, which goes pretty much all the way just because of transformation. And then the feet are just sculpted in place, obviously, but at that very slight A stance. So yeah, decent articulation on him. Just wish that he had a head joint, really. Really, I think most of my problems from this guy kind of stem from the fact that he has that like weapon mode that was abandoned. Like, I don't like the way that the guns on the fists look, and I don't like the way he's got like 5mm pegs jutting off of his knees. And then I don't love that the legs don't fold up quite as much either, but mostly it's like those two things are, artifacts of a, once designed weapon mode that never even ended up happening, which is a little weird, but either way, they're kind of nitpicks, all things considered. I still think he's a fun little guy. In terms of comparisons in this mode, here he is again with Kingdom Sideswipe, so you can see what he looks like with an average size deluxe, and Kingdom Rat Trap, so you can see what he looks like with a core class figure. Here he is again with Shrapnel from Thrilling 30, so you can see what the two of them look like together. Again, even though they've got kind of mismatched purples and yellows, I think that they still look pretty cool together. And then lastly, here he is again with Legacy Evolution. I can't remember. Yeah. Evolution, late end of Evolution, not early end of United. These are the figures from like this and last year. I should remember which line they're in, but he's Evolution, I think. But that's what the two of them look like together. Again, I like this guy's robot mode a lot better. It's just a little bit less kibbly and stuff like that. But this guy's got some nice, kind of shapes to him as well. Like, they're both good generally. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to Bombshell. He's a decent little figure, not without issue. And again, it's kind of for nothing because he doesn't even have the gun mode, which is weird that they abandoned that, since that was like the line-wide gimmick for these these guys, but still, again, like I said, those are kind of small complaints, all things considered. He's still a pretty fun little figure. I love his bug mode. His robot mode is decent, and the transformation is kind of fun. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to it. If you enjoy my videos, make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel. I do reviews every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. And without further ado, here we have Transformers Combiner Wars Legends Class Bombshell.